Welcome to an exploration of the external and internal anatomy of a common pigeon. First, let's take a look at the external anatomy. Here we have the cere, which houses the nostrils. The eyes, which are visual receptors. The ear opening, which are auditory receptors. The ear opening was definitely not easy to find. The breast, the keel, which houses the flight muscles. When you first receive your pigeon, you're going to want to remove all the feathers on the breast and down to the cloaca. If you still have skin left over after plucking the feathers, go ahead and make a shallow cut just below the skin and peel it up. Be very careful not to damage the crop, which rests just at the base of the neck. This specimen has already been plucked, so I just have to peel back some of the skin. Take a look at the robust musculature of the keel muscles. Notice those heavy striations. And the cloaca, in which fluids and wastes are excreted. Resting at the base of the neck, we can find the crop, which is used as a primary digestion, or maybe not necessarily primary, but the first round of digestion. Many birds also use it to feed their young by storing foods that they catch out in the wild. Adjacent to the crop, you should be able to find the trachea, which leads up to the glottis, behind the tongue. To remove the keel, cut into either side of the ribs, just underneath it. Then, pull it up. Be very careful when you're pulling it though. You might find that the heart is attached to the roof of the keel. Pull it up very slowly. Put your finger above the heart and apply pressure while you're pulling up the keel. This way it doesn't pull up the entire circulatory system and ruin your dissection experience. Just below the heart, we have the liver, which looks pretty different compared to other animals you may have looked at during dissections. Instead of being super oily and soft and sort of oblong, it is sort of rounded and hard. Their heart must be incredibly large and strong to pump a sufficient amount of blood around the body to maintain flight. One very interesting thing about birds in general is that their respiratory system is full of air sacs. Unfortunately, we couldn't really find the air sacs in this one, as they're very easy to rupture. But during your dissections, make sure to look around the internal abdominal cavity of the bird. You may be able to find some sort of inflated, thin, or deflated sac. let's start taking a look at the intestinal anatomy. This is the duodenum. Just adjacent to the duodenum is the pancreas, which will secrete more digestive enzymes to primarily digest proteins. Take a look at this area here in the large intestine. See these two little nodules on each side? These are the ceca. This houses bacteria that aids in the digestion of cellulose. Here is the colon, which leads down to the cloaca. Birds have a very unique digestive system compared to that of other vertebrates. Instead of having a four-chambered stomach that is used to ferment cellulose, or a single-chambered stomach which is used solely for protein digestion, birds do not necessarily have a stomach. They use their crop, but they also have a proventriculus and a gizzard. The proventriculus begins secreting enzymes to break down proteins. It also begins mechanical digestion. After this initial digestion, the food moves into the gizzard, in which mainly mechanical digestion takes place. Notice how strong the walls of the gizzard are. This thing is just pure muscle. It is designed to grind up tough foods like cellulose and seeds, and sometimes even bones. In this species, it's mainly used to process cellulose and seeds. They also swallow rocks to aid in the breakdown and grinding of their food. Posterior to the gizzard, we find a more familiar structure, the duodenum. The structure of the small intestines themselves is also very familiar. However, instead of looking neatly folded, they kind of look like poorly drawn spaghetti. These pigeon intestines are very tightly bound to their mesentery, so if you want to pull them out and kind of display them as a string, be very, very gentle, very easy to rupture. Now that we've looked at the main gastrointestinal tract, let's move that out of the way and see if we can find more hidden structures like the kidneys. You should be able to find the kidneys on either side of the spine in the abdominal cavity. Here on either side of the spine, we can find little flaps, which are the animal's kidneys. Positioned right on top of these kidneys are the testes. Unfortunately, we had some issues finding the vas deferens in this animal. If you have a female specimen, you should be able to find ovaries and an oviduct leading down to the cloaca. To get a better look at the lungs, make sure to lift the keel, peel the heart out of the way, and pull out the liver. The lung should be resting up against the ribs of the animal in the thoracic cavity, just behind the heart. Survey the surrounding area for evidence of the air sacs. They should appear as clear and deflated. These air sacs allow the pigeon to recirculate oxygen as it is flying. That way, it has a constant supply of oxygen as it is exerting a very great amount of energy. Once you've removed the heart, it may be a good idea to bisect it and see what's inside. birds have 4 chambered hearts, so you should find a right atrium, a right ventricle, a left atrium, and a left ventricle, all separated by a fully developed septum. If you have a hard time identifying which side is right and left, look for the presence of the blue latex. If you find this blue latex in the atrium or ventricle, that means that this atrium or ventricle is the right side.